Okay, let's dive right into it and skip all the intro about blah blah blah, and let's just get to the point. This video is about mold making. Mold making, mold making, mold making.
Mold making.
I've been making a few molds now, and I'm trying to learn. And also, when I tried to look up how other people do it, I never see what they do with all the waste. I think there's a lot of waste when you're doing art, and you never see what they do with it. Do they throw it away? How much rest material do they have, etc. So I try to find ways where I have as less waste as possible. And the other reason is the material to make the molds is pretty expensive, so you want to be as efficient as possible. If I can make a mold box that is mold box efficient, the mold box should be as efficient as possible. Other things. Oh yeah. I think this method is especially useful when you make molds out of pieces that are pretty flat and not too complex. So single molds, no cut molds, no complex stuff, just a single mold, no cuts. Let's just get started. I will tell you what materials I have used. I will show you the process. I'll show you the end result, that it works. Actually, it works. It works. It works! Okay, so let me show you what I'm using in this video. There's two pieces I want to mold. This one is made of monster clay, the hard version. And this one is made of polymer clay, super sculpy, firm. Different material, you bake it in the oven and it gets hard. And some sculpting materials, knife. I got foam board, and then the silicones I make the molds with. I'm using Shore 10, which is really soft. Got part A and B, which you mix later on. A compressor to degas your silicones to get out all the bubbles. Sticks to stir. And a measurement, weight measurement thingy, mold release. And then we have the clay to make the actual mold box from. I'm using chiffon clay because it's pretty soft. Monster clay would work as well, I guess, but I like chiffon clay for the mold box because it's just really soft and easy to work with. I make the mold box on the foam board, building up the walls with the chiffon clay. And you want your walls to be 1 centimeter higher than the highest point of the piece. And this piece is made out of two pieces, because it's a little box, so I need to make another mold for that. And then I have the cat. And this is how I actually start. I place the piece on the foam board, making sure that I have enough space to build up the walls around it. Drawing the lines. And you need the wall to be approximately 1 centimeter farther away from the outer lines. And then I start building up the walls with the clay, which is a bit of a challenge in the beginning because the clay doesn't really stick to the foam board. But if you just push really hard, then it will stick. And then you start building up your walls with the clay. Now they can be as thick as you want, but just don't make them too thin. I would say like at least 0.5 centimeter, but you kind of feel it when you're working with it. And I'm trying to make the mold box as smooth as possible, especially the inside, because you don't want the silicones to like get stuck in the clay. And now I'm checking if the models fit the mold boxes and the height, and it seems they're pretty good. And this is the moment where I will use a mold release inside of the mold box. This will make it much easier to release the mold, but also I want to make the mold box water resistant because I want to measure the volume. Silicones are pretty expensive, so you want to know exactly how much you need. So I'm trying to measure the volume of the mold box and later on the volume of the models. So I'm around 400 millimeters. And also make sure to write down the volumes of the mold boxes. Okay, so removing the water and letting them dry. And now to get the volume of the models. And since monster clay and polymer clay is water resistant, this should be no trouble to do. The volume of the mold box minus the volume of the models will give you the volume of how much silicones you will need. There's a few more things I need to do. Monster clay is pretty heavy, so I know it will just sit at the bottom. But polymer clay is a bit light, so I need to glue it to the foam board to make sure that it will not move around in the silicones. Now that the models are in place, I have sprayed them again with mold release, which will make it easier to unmold later on. And to get the exact amount of silicones, I find it easier to use weight. So I looked up the density of the silicones so I can calculate how much grams I will need. And the silicones I'm using have a ratio of 1 part A and 1 part B, so this makes it really easy. I pour the silicones part A and B right away in the same mixing bowl. So I have to make sure I got everything ready, because from this moment on I have around 40 minutes before the silicone starts to harden. So right away I'll start stirring until I get one color. Now the next step is optional, but I'd like to get all the bubbles out of the silicones. So I got a compressor and a vacuum chamber. I'm putting on the compressor, and you can see a pressure getting up, sucking out all of the air, and then the bubbles start to appear. The silicones will rise up, and at a certain point it will collapse and all the bubbles will be gone. I got just a small one because these things don't come cheap, but I do find it worth it. And now it's finally time to pour the silicones. I pour them in one corner and keep pouring. Okay, so let's speed this up a little bit so you can see the molds disappearing in the silicones. And though I was pretty precise with measuring how much I needed with the silicones, I do take it easy when pouring. So I'm dividing it over the tree and make sure I have enough for them all. But it seems like I did a good job with my calculations. I've waited a full day and now it's finally time to unmold the molds. So what I first will do is pull on top of the mold to release the edges from the clay. And I will make a cut somewhere in the wall of the clay and start pulling off. And then I will try to carefully release the bottom of the mold and see if I can release it. And there it is. Now you can see that some silicones came under the model, so I will just try to cut it away along the edges. And I really try to stay within the edges while cutting, because I rather not cut away too much of the mold, just enough for the model to release. And then gently pulling, pushing until it gets out. And the other ones, it's the same process. I'm pulling the mold to release from the edges, and I will make a cut in the wall of clay and start tearing off the wall. And I do try to do it carefully so I can reuse the clay later on for other projects, other molds. So I would have less time building walls and smoothing them. And again, I'm releasing the mold carefully from the bottom, but this time I'm going to need a knife because it's stuck to the bottom and I don't want to tear the mold. I rather use a knife With this polymer clay cat, I used some clay inside to make it a bit more heavier and also used some glue, and that's why it's sticking to the bottom. And it's a little bit sticky. Again, carefully releasing the model. You don't want to break off anything. You never know if you want to reuse the model again to make a new mold, but this looks pretty good. Looks like it took all the detail and I don't see any weird things or tears. Because I want to throw away as little as possible, scraping up some of the silicone that got stuck in the clay. It's so sticky. And again, repeating the process, releasing the edges on top and then making a cut and tearing off the walls. And as you can see, there's hardly any silicone stuck into the clay, which is great, so I can reuse it for the next time. And slowly releasing the bottom. And again, it's stuck for some reason, but I will cut it again. And again, I will cut away the silicones that got under the mold. And it really helps to kind of stretch the silicones, makes the cutting easier, and it just sticks to your everything and so sticky. Okay, releasing the model again, and there it is. Again, looks really nice. Took the details very well. I'm really happy with it. And now the cleaning up part. So there's some rust material of the silicones. I can just get it out, so sticky, and get off my finger. I'm using a sculpting tool to remove the clay, which goes really, really easy. I'm just scraping it off and collecting it. There's actually not a lot of silicones stuck into the clay, so I can reuse all the clay that I have on it. And the great thing about reusing the foam board is that there's now a bit of like a sticky, oily layer on it, which makes it easier for the next time to build up the walls. I will put the molds to dry for at least another day to let them harden out. And I will also store the original models until I know that I don't need them anymore. The great thing with master clay is that you can melt them and reuse them again. And so at the end, we got a box with models. We got the foam board we can use again. The clay we can use again. Got some silicones left from the last time, which is always handy when you made too little silicones. And this is the little pile of waste from this project, and I'm pretty proud of that.